is Brady here, and today we are going to learn how to sew on a button. While yes, this is for our project, I also believe that this is a skill that everyone should know how to do. So it's very simple once you know how to do it. It might seem like a daunting task at first, but we can do this together. So you're obviously going to be needing your button. So if you lost your button, a lot of clothing will actually come with extra buttons in them, or a lot of craft stores will sell extra buttons. So just try to find one that's close, definitely in size and in color. So for our example today, we're going to be using this button, and we're just going to be sewing it onto this fabric. So you will also need your thread and your needle, and obviously you should have your knot tied on the back end of your thread. So once again, we're going to make sure that we are starting from the back of our fabric so that our knot cannot be seen. And you want to poke up right through where your button is going to be located. So we're going to just put it right here in the middle. So we're going to just poke on up through. And here we go. So the way it was actually described to me whenever I was first taught how to sew on a button is if you lift it up, it should almost be like a really weird droopy ghost or like flying carpet from Aladdin thing like that. So that's how you know that your knot's going to be good, is if when you lift it up, the whole thing comes up. From there, you're going to almost in a sense feel like you're like in first grade or something like that with sewing a plate together. And you're just going to stick it through one of the holes. So once you've got your button on there and it's just through one of the things, so it slides up and down, you are going to go to the hole that is directly across from it, not one of the ones beside it. This is obviously only if you have a button with 4 holes. Some buttons have 2, some have 4. The one I will be using for my example has 4 holes in it. So I'm going to go to the one that is directly across from it. And then I'm just going to sew down. You want to try to keep all of your stitches in the same area for on the back side of it. That way it's nice and tight. So that's 1. You are actually going to be doing this 4 times. Whether it's a button with 4 holes or a button with 2 holes, everything is going to be done in 4s. So we've got 1 right there so far. Now we're going to go for number 2. So up around the same place you just recently came out of. Pull it through. And then back down the one across from it again. You want to try to keep it towards the inside of the circles. So that was 2. And then 3. And, sorry. Oh, wrong hole. Just go. And 4. So you want to make sure that you're pulling tightly after each stitch goes through. That way it's good and tight and it won't fall off again. You're then going to go to the ones that you didn't sew yet, so the other 2 holes. So once again, we will be doing 4. So you're always going the same direction. So 1, 2, make sure that you don't stab yourself, so look where you're sewing on the other side. 3, oh, wrong one. 3, and the last one, 4. So if you think you're finished at this point, you are not. There is still one final step, and that is to sew on the shank. This is not a prison weapon. This is how to make sure that there is some space between your fabric and your button. So I'm hoping this is going to work with the focus here. So we're gonna refocus the camera. So your thread's starting on the back, so that's where we want to be. And you're going to go up through the middle, and then your needle should actually pop out between the layers. So do we see how our needle is behind our button, but on top of our fabric? So we're going to pull that out. Pull nice and tight, but not too tight where you actually break the thread off. And once again, like I said before, we're going to be doing everything in 4s. So you're going to just go around the button. So 1, tug, 2, tug. Make sure each time you're going around the button the same direction. 3, tug, and 4, and tug. You're going to then take your needle behind the button, or under the button, and go through the fabric. Oh, There we go. And you're going to pull it down through. Then when you're on the back, you're going to be finishing your stitch just like ending a stitch. Except at this point, we don't really have any space to make a bubble. So we're actually going to be creating our own. So you want to make sure it's right in the area of all your other stitches. That way you can't see it. So underneath your button, just going to scoop up a piece of fabric and you're going to create a bubble. Okay, there we go. So do we see our bubble? So we've got our bubble right there. And you're going to go through this bubble 3 times. So 1, make sure to go through the same direction all 3 times or else you're going to undo some of them. 2 and 3. And then you're going to pull it tight and there we've got our button. So our button is on there nice and tight. If you look under there, it might be hard to tell with the color of thread that I used. It is purple, but there is a shank in there. That way there is space between so that you could clip it into that. All right, I hope this was helpful and let's give it a try.